Shut up, clown.
Robin, no, you can't kill him. Our mission is to seek justice, not murder. I made a vow to myself to never allow a person's life to be taken so senselessly, and to never kill.
Since when?
Huh?
Alfred told me you hung that disabled dude way back in the day.
Well, it was a different time.
You left Rachel Gould for dead.
Okay, he can revive though.
You literally shot at and exploded a car full of henchmen.
Okay, you know that one doesn't count.
I know.
Okay, you get one freebie.
Yes! How does the face of the no-kill rule hang someone in one of his first issues? I'm just joking, y'all. The medium of comics is all about figuring out what works and what doesn't. It's about improvising and changing for future stories. In 20 years, we'll look back at all the great runs people have done now and use it as inspiration like modern writers use comics from the 2000s. Batman as a character has changed a lot as the cultural landscape of America has also changed. His billionaire status, gadget selection, and more importantly, his willingness to kill have all grown and evolved. Batman's stories now have him address his wealth and how he can contribute to the world as Bruce Wayne. They've also modernized his gadgets and utility belt to include high-tech tools as well as first aid kits and more importantly, lollipops. Now the most debated change is the no-kill rule. Should Batman kill? These days, Batman reacts like he shot his dog the minute somebody wants to off the Joker, a mass murdering clown, but he wasn't always that way. I don't know, should he be? Now I will save my opinion for the conclusion of this video, as I want to present you with some excerpts from his history that depict him either being okay with killing or being an accessory to murder, either directly or indirectly. I will go over times where Batman could have done something to save someone but didn't, using people as human shields, and even directly killing someone. I will give a disclaimer, there are some moments where Batman explicitly kills, but most of this video exists in that gray area, where modern Batman absolutely would feel guilt over these deaths, but some of these interpretations don't. In these moments of time, Batman bears responsibility for someone's death. I'll be mostly focusing on everything from the 80s onward, and you can let me know if these stories still feel like Batman, and if the no-kill rule is as essential as we think it is. Let's start with a pretty funny one that made me create this video, and it all begins in Markovia. If you are a longtime DC fan, when you hear the name Markovia, you think about Count Vertigo, Tara from Teen Titans, and Geoforce, her brother. The country is oftentimes used as a made-up Eastern European nation that is war-torn and runs as a monarchy. In Batman and the Outsiders, it is the meeting place of this great team. Seriously, read this book. It's only about 30 issues maybe, but it is so much fun. Now, Batman is drawn to the country because one of his colleagues has gone MIA when traveling through the nation. We learn that he was abducted. We go through the story, each member has their own reason for traveling to Markovia, they all get captured, and Batman leads them to victory. Then there's a sequence on the battlefield. Batman narrates this revolt as the Outsiders and him fight back against this usurper, Baron Bedlam. Bedlam fights back, and with powers almost equal to Geoforce, they have a tough one. Geoforce drags his ass to this castle rooftop, and Halo smartly says, hey, maybe we should go after the hothead with insane power. But Batman blows her off and gives a funny expression. Brion and Bedlam fight, and Bedlam has the same powers as Brion, but more skill. Brion has more heart, however, as Bedlam lifts this giant piece of rock above him to bash Brion to death, he loses his powers, as they are only temporary, because only the royal bloodline can possess them permanently. Now, Batman pauses to the question, what do we do with him? And Brion says that only one group deserves to judge Bedlam, his victims, the people of Markovia. Then, Brion throws this man down what looks like several floors, at least 4. More importantly, he throws him into the angry people of Markovia, which this Baron oppressed. The mob is carrying hatchets, clubs, and all sorts of weapons. And then to top it off, they just hear his screams of agony. And I know in comics, people come back all the time from the dead, and there's a good chance that this guy actually comes back to life, but I seriously doubt that Batman thought the angry crowd was going to, what, give him a group hug, a stern talking to, a fair trial? Batman even says he would hate to turn him over to a world court, which is insane for Batman considering how many times I've heard him talk about trusting the system. Now, why do I start with this one, especially one Batman hasn't killed anyone? It's because out of all the examples, this is the only one where Batman is not only okay with killing, but seems to enjoy it. Literally, as we see his screams of agony and Batman is watching this man ripped apart by an angry mob, he says, I like the way your mind works.
Huh?
What the fuck? This is insane. I have never seen Batman enjoy watching someone die. This reminds me of the Wonder Woman moments we got in the New Frontier, where Wonder Woman doesn't directly kill any of these soldiers, but she allows the women who were captured to seek their revenge, and they seem happy afterwards. In this scenario, Batman surprisingly sees the people of Markovia rip a man apart and feels like justice was served, the total opposite of the usual speeches we hear from him these days. Now, to give Batman some slack, this dude was a Nazi collaborator, so it's not like his life was worth much of anything, but this comic opened my eye to the fact that Batman's no-kill rule is only a recent invention. Now, this next one is written by a writer who shows up here quite a bit. Old Jim Starlin did not like to write a saintly Batman. That's part of the reason I like to read his stuff. It's a guilty pleasure. If you guys know his work, you know he wrote the classic Death in the Family, the wildly underrated masterpiece that is Batman the Cult, which I will talk about at the end. And if you really know ball, you know he wrote 10 Nights of the Beast, where Batman has to outmaneuver a man who seems to be better than him at everything. I strongly encourage you guys to read this if you haven't, and for those who have read it, refrain from commenting on that fun fact. I'll get to it. I'm only going to go over the ending, as I'm not sure if you guys care to hear me retell a comic. If you do, let me know. I'm going to share some underrated stuff with you guys in audio format, but let's begin. At this point, Batman has cornered KG Beast in the running in Gotham sewers, Batman's turf. Batman narrates, "I had this section of pipes and passages memorized. That's how I know about the back door. He hears me land and reacts instantly. Luckily, I have fairly quick reflexes myself. It's almost over. The beast is running out of places to escape to. He spots the door, just as I expected. I don't rush in after him. No way out. It's a cul-de-sac. Trapped. Batman corners him with his knowledge of the sewers into a room with only one entrance and exit. And you'd think this is where Batman would prove himself, where he would finally say, hey, I am better than you, KG Beast. Even his opponent seems to think so. Well, my worthy opponent, a time of reckoning is upon us. Time for us to find out which of us is the best at this game of life and death. What are you waiting for? Come, let us play out this black game. KG Beast is goading Batman, hoping he takes the move many other heroes would, to fight for your ego, your pride, and for your lust for battle. Batman just says, why should I? A few years ago, I would have jumped at this chance to test myself against you, but time has taught me many valuable lessons. There's no reason for me to risk my life coming in there after you. You would neither accomplish nor prove anything worthwhile. As he gives KG Beast his last words, he slides out of frame as the impossibly thick steel door closes. Then we see Batman securing the KG Beast's coffin as he narrates. Sometimes you have to ignore the rules. Sometimes circumstances are such that the rules pervert justice. I'm not in this business to protect the rules. I serve justice. As Batman walks away calmly, the KG Beast slams against the door. His actions are futile, for he will die a slow and painful death here. Starlin's Batman seems to understand that some people gotta go. There are very few prisons outside of the Phantom Zone that could really hold KG Beast, and more importantly, he has killed so many innocents, and if Batman turned him over to the authorities, they could not stop him from killing more. We even see this reaction from one of the suits who is tracking the Beast down. Batman says to him, I brought your agents back. He replies, what about the Beast? Batman just says, you needn't to worry about him anymore. Then we see shock and then understanding. This man realizes that Batman crossed that line, and it might have been for the betterment of humanity. Starlin's Batman works outside of the rules sometimes. He seems to have a much more loose definition of what a hero is and what a hero does. I do not think this is what Batman should be, but I can't lie, I really enjoy Starlin's stories and writing. However, DC was not as big of a fan of this choice. Like I alluded to earlier, Starlin's decision to have Batman kill KG Beast or let him die in there was retconned. DC got Wolfman to change this ending almost right after it happened. KG Beast quote unquote dies in Batman 420. They retcon the death in Batman 439. Where Nightwing confronts Batman about his recklessness, and they sneak in the detail that Batman left him there to die and did contemplate letting him rot in there, but eventually came to his senses and tipped the GCPD off. However, when they arrived, KG Beast had escaped. Overall, you guys will start to realize almost half of this video is the result of Starlin barely paying attention to the status quo DC wanted to set with Batman. Now let's jump forward in time to one of the most insane deaths in this video. I said before that no other death had Batman revel in it like he did in Batman and the Outsiders. And while this death might feel close to that, I don't count it for a few reasons. This is a Grant Morrison story, meaning there's a hard to follow plot with a vague sense of reality and an unclear ending. This story takes place at a low point for Batman. He has just been shot, and we are not quite sure if this is a memory, a hallucination, something just in Bruce's brain. We start with Batman pointing a gun at Joe Chill, already off to a strange start. Why is Bruce wielding a gun? This is a story from the 2000s. While researching this video, people have stated that the story is Grant trying to spin a reason for why early Batman sometimes had a gun. You can see the slight design change from our modern Batman to invoke his early days. That leads me to believe that Grant wanted this to be canon. However, I'll let you guys be the judge here. Batman says Thomas Wayne died when the first bullet struck him point blank in the chest. Martha's wound might not have been fatal if the ambulance had got there in time, but her heart was weak and she died from blood loss. I brought your gun back, Joe, the one you used to kill them. You left one bullet in the magazine. So, Batman has held on to Joe Chill's gun for decades, simply to confront him with his crimes. It takes Joe a minute to realize what his worst mistake was, not killing Thomas Wayne, or Martha Wayne, or the others that he has hurt and murdered. No, his greatest mistake was creating the Batman. If the scene had stopped here, it would be heralded as a great moment, really impactful. The misery on Joe Chill's face, realizing his senseless violence cascaded into his greatest fear, the Dark Knight. However, no. The sequence continues. We see Batman in the present day getting his chest shocked and cut in between the supposed past and present. Batman has now handed Joe his gun, and he breaks down further, asking himself, how am I supposed to live like this? As we see a retro Batman ore farming in the rain. Now this is another indirect kill, but if you tell someone to kill yourself, and they do kill themselves with a loaded gun that you gave them, I think you might be legally liable for manslaughter. In terms of Batman representation, I think this is insane. It's one thing if Batman has no other choice, is pushed into a corner with an extreme situation, like a war or a shootout, or maybe he's fighting aliens or monsters, but this is an aging man crying like a buffoon because of how scared he is that his rivals will kill him once they figure out what he did. And Batman, instead of arresting him, taking him into protective custody, or just leaving him and taking the gun with him, Batman subtly encourages this man to kill himself. I may be crazy, but there's a level of depravity there that is arguably more disgusting than just murder. To push a man on the brink of suicide and then handing him the gun he used to kill himself? Insane. I think this might be the most twisted we see Batman in this video, but I am really unsure if this is considered canon or not. We'll get to a more cut and dry version of this at the end with Batman the Cult, but before we do that, let's lighten the mood a bit with more murder. Dwayne McDuffie will always be respected on this channel, not only for what he did for Milestone Comics, but more importantly the cartoons that shaped my childhood. If you've watched my videos on Batwing and Batman's insane plot armor, you would know that McDuffie is not flawless. He did write my favorite episodes of Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, but he also was an accomplice in the How Do We Keep Jerking Batman Off contest. Whoever wrote this won, by the way. Now, McDuffie's comics vary in quality, but I always did enjoy his stuff. He wrote the issue we are going to glance over today. It is titled Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, issue 158. Blink. Now this storyline has a pretty cool premise. A blind man has the ability to peer through the minds of others and he witnesses a murder. He wants to get involved and help, but he also does not want to let anybody know that he has these powers. The mystery ensues, and you get a pretty classic shootout in the third part to the story. Batman is seen holding a dying man who points in the direction to the information that he needs. He chases after the criminal, and a machine gun starts firing toward him, but he dodges. We see Batman duck, and as more bullets come flying, the criminal he was pursuing decides to stop running and sneak behind Batman, holding him so his buddies can get rid of him. Now Batman has this insane feat of strength, able to lift a man who looks to be about 300 pounds from his awkward position behind him towards the line of fire that the machine gun is firing in. Then we see this guy get riddled with bullets, absolutely torn apart, and his friends look distraught. realizing that Batman just got them to kill their own by using him as a human shield. Now this is another one where you can do some mental gymnastics to say, well, Batman didn't technically kill him. For me, this counts. A modern Batman story would have had him instead use a smoke bomb or throw a batarang at the assailant's hand, but McDuffie says fuck it, and channels his inner Starlin to make Batman guilty of manslaughter. If you want a more direct kill from Batman, I got you. Let's go back in time to Detective Comics 613. I'm bouncing around all over today. We have an issue written by the great Alan Grant and penciled by the talented Norm Breyfogle. Now this story shocked me because on the surface it seems to be a pretty good issue raising awareness about the unsustainable business practices of those who dump in landfills. It talks about forever plastics and even the ozone layer. Pretty good for a Batman comic written in 1990. Now the story involves a father-son duo, a bushy-tailed and bright-eyed 13-year-old boy named Mike Dell and his father who owns a waste management company. Mike is writing a report for his ecology class on his dad's work and how the garbage trucks dispose of their waste. We see him writing on the pages as the story progresses, teaching the viewers real facts about waste management. The story really picks up when we're introduced to a rival waste management company, which is run by some sleazeball that wants Dell's territory. While these guys rough Mike's dad up, he is sitting in the truck watching the whole thing. However, Mike is not the only one watching. We see Bruce Wayne on a date seeing the altercation happen. Now, Mike's dad sends him home because something came up, quote unquote. Really, he just doesn't want his son to be in danger. Now we see Mike's parents argue about it, his mom not understanding the weight of the situation and why his dad is so adamant that he stays home. However, Mike doesn't seem to care and he rides along the rooftop of his dad's garbage truck. Fast forward a bit after some investigating by Batman and we arrive to the landfill where the sleazeball Cruden gets frustrated after Dell seems to be acting as if it's business as usual. So he reminds Dell of his threat, getting his men to aim their guns at him. Dell calls their bluff, saying he won't risk a murder charge, and Cruden says, you know what, you're right. How about we just grind you up in the garbage truck? This causes Mike, who's been hanging on the top of the truck this entire time, to scream, "No, you animals, leave my dad!" Then he gets shot by the henchmen. Mike weakly finishes, "Dad, alone." Fuck. I read a lot of violent comics, but I cannot handle seeing kids die. Batman, arriving too late, sees the boy fall and jumps into action. He puts down the child murderer with ease and says, "Get down where you belong." Tough. Then he struggles a bit with the last two, but comes out on top by kicking one into the other. However, this causes them both to go flying in the direction of Batman's kick, that direction leading them to the grinders which Cruden turned on. Then we see Batman mortified, screaming out, "Oh my god!" as he watches Cruden be destroyed by the very thing he wished to use on Dell. Batman turns off the grinder, but it is far too late. Walking from one tragedy, he goes into another, watching as this father cradles his boy, losing him to senseless violence. A boy who's hopelessly passionate about the world, so much so he throws himself into danger, much like another boy Batman once knew. The final page is a work of brilliance by Breyfogle. Batman's silhouette surrounds the scene, and Mike Dell's passionate plea for environmentalism blows away in the wind. This comic does a good job illustrating the fact that Batman did not mean to kill those men. Lord knows they do not deserve his mercy, but he still wanted to extend it to them. However, this comic does quickly brush by them to focus on the real heart of the story, a father mourning his son. Now, for those who have read A Death in the Family, you know how many parallels are here. Both of these kids seem to be more eager than careful, and it costs them their lives. However, let's go back in time a bit, and let me tell you about my second favorite Robin, that is Jason Todd, and how he interpreted the no-kill rule. Now, like I said, this will discuss Jason Todd as Robin. I am not the biggest fan of Red Hood. Plenty of other more talented creators have detailed his weird spot in the Bat family, but I want to go over his golden years as Robin because he was a great one. You will see that eagerness and that passion he has in the stories ahead, and when you do, it will make his death all the more heartbreaking. However, we are not here today to discuss that. We're here to discuss Batman 424. We start with Robin swinging towards a building with a voice shouting no. The narration says Jason Todd. Robin hears the scream and his instincts take over. He has no way of seeing the mess he's swinging into. Jason is about to experience the real downside of fighting crime, about to learn that the good guys don't always win, about to meet the diplomat's son. We see Robin land in the apartment and fight off this man who seems to live there. We see another man with a knife who's about to try and cut Robin, only Batman stops him before so, and makes quick work of him sticking his head through a wall. Batman complains that Robin shouldn't just run headfirst into situations, but Robin tells him he heard a woman scream. He walks towards the bedroom, and what he sees is something no child should: a woman beaten and battered after being assaulted by those men. Robin is completely shell-shocked, and the dynamic duo take her to get help. The woman sits in the police station telling her story. Her name is Gloria, and Robin lets her know, hey, we got this guy, he's going to spend some hard time. Unfortunately, Robin is wrong. We learn the man's name is Felipe, and he has concocted some lie, backed up by his buddy that paints him as innocent. Moreover, even if they could disprove the bogus story, Felipe is the son of the ambassador to Bogotago, a fictional South American country. He has diplomatic immunity. Robin is clearly frustrated. He says, I want this guy Batman, and Batman lets him know, we can't get him for this, but we're not done with him yet. Batman plans to catch him on drug charges after he notices Felipe acting like the insane cokehead he is. As they stake out this little shack Felipe and his dealer buddies are holed up in, we see Robin's mental state. He is antsy, angry, and eager to put a pounding on this guy. Batman and Robin bust Felipe and beat the crap out of his buddies. Robin begs Felipe to resist, but he doesn't, and miraculously, Robin holds back. Even though Robin knows this charge won't be nearly as bad as the charges he should have received, he's willing to work with the system here, because at least then, some justice will be served. We see Felipe being sprung from jail by his father's lawyer. However, because Batman knew the son of a diplomat being caught on drug charges would be highly corrosive to one's career, Batman correctly predicted that he will have to be sent home, no longer able to wreak havoc in Gotham. But before Felipe leaves, he makes one phone call to Gloria, the woman he assaulted before. Once Robin realizes what he's doing, he screams, "You animal!" and Batman has to hold him back. They rush to find Gloria's number and to call her. Robin says, "Please, Gloria, answer, please." But she doesn't pick up. Batman and Robin rush over, swinging from skyscraper to skyscraper, hoping to reach Gloria's apartment in time. But as Robin looks in the bedroom for her, he sees another thing no child should: Gloria hanging from the ceiling. The narration reads this: Gloria had been like cracked crystal, still beautiful, but someone you'd be afraid to touch for fear of shattering her. She was too fragile for a world inhabited by monsters like Felipe Garzones. As Batman calls for help, he realizes Robin has disappeared, and he knows exactly where he went: Felipe's apartment. We see Felipe reminisce on his time in Gotham, the coke, the fun, the liberated American woman. Felipe says, "I'm going to miss those silly creatures," and he thinks to himself if he's ever going to come back. Then he sees Robin on his balcony. There is a jump in time, and we see Felipe falling to his death as Batman swings in to question Robin. Batman says, "Robin, what happened?" And we see Robin look at Batman, then look down, almost ashamed. He then says, "Robin, did Felipe fall, or was he pushed?" Then Robin says, "I guess I spooked him. He slipped." Cold, man. Jason is a real one for this. I know for some of you he made the wrong call, but for me, he did the right thing. Felipe would have gone back home to abuse and assault more women who might also be fragile like Gloria, and then after enough time had passed, he would come back to Gotham and do the exact same thing to somebody else. Out of all the intentional deaths in this video, this one felt the most just. Jason forgoes all the training Batman had taught him about suppressing his emotions and thinking before you act, and he simply allows himself to succumb to vengeance, and I bet it felt right. Now Batman is concerned about this. He's unsure about his partner and if he's up to the task after causing the death of a man. But would you believe me if I told you that because of a lack of action from Batman, somebody dies right after this? Someone who definitely did not have it coming the same way Felipe did. In Batman issue 425, yes, the issue right after the last, Batman is treated to a ransom note, a picture of Commissioner Gordon tied to a car in a junkyard. Batman tries calling him to verify the truth of this, and he's not home. Jason sees this and asks him, "What's going on?" Batman of course keeps him in the dark. Bruce does not want to involve Robin right after he murdered someone. He's afraid he will cut loose again, especially since a friend is in danger. After a small recap of the last issue, Batman says, "Better hurry, Jason, you'll be late for school." Jason asks if he's going to see him tonight, and Batman walks away with a "sure." Jason does not buy that. He knows he's in a little bit of trouble, and his face here is killing me. We see Batman get suited up and drive out to the junkyard. Alfred notices that Jason left his books, and we can infer that he has followed Batman. Now, what I love about Jason Todd is he's incredibly willing to put himself in danger and will always do what he believes is right. In this scenario, he can put 2 and 2 together to infer that Batman is about to do some sleuthing and he needs some backup. After some crime fighting, then sticking around, Batman surprises these 2 criminals who aim, shoot at him, and he dodges and they shoot at each other instead. Seriously, I cannot imagine a modern Batman allowing 2 small-time thugs to kill each other so senselessly like that. He would 1000% use batarangs or a smoke bomb or something to distract them from accidentally shooting each other. However, that is not on him. After Batman is confronted with his foe who has a gun pointed towards Jim's head, he is saved by Robin who disarms the madman and they get to fighting. Now after Jim is safe, albeit with a small graze to the shoulder, it becomes a 1v1 of Batman and this drug dealer who has a machine gun. Batman has a plan here, however. He leads the drug dealer to continue shooting him as he climbs the tower of crushed cars and the dealer keeps firing. Then we can see Batman lean on one side of the tower, the dealer firing still. Now realizing all of this has caused the tower to destabilize and then start to collapse. Then we see the tower crush the dealer to death. Now I phrase this as causing the death of someone because Batman is somebody who instead of using his gadgets, sidekick, or fighting skills, climbs this tower of cars. Moreover, we can see him leaning on one side. Now Batman did not intend to kill him. However, he also does not know if Robin intended to spook Felipe, if we buy that story. What I will say about our modern Batman is that he is far more skilled at preventing the deaths of criminals. This one seems somewhat apathetic to them. When we think about the Batman we grew up with, his long speech to Red Hood about killing Joker and how badly he wanted to prevent that from happening, this feels like a completely different guy who does not try as hard to prevent the deaths of criminals, he just won't be the executioner. What's more interesting is that he mentions a father's righteous anger. Robin is confused. He thought this was some small-time drug dealer. However, no, this is Jose Garzonas, Felipe's father. Batman says to Robin, "For every action in this universe, there is an opposite and equal reaction. Consequences, Robin. There's no escaping them." Damn. This entire issue is to show Robin how killing one man can cause the death of 4 more. Those men might have had families, dreams, goals, aspirations. The last page just shows the reactions to this information as we cut to the bodies of the fallen men. Then Robin walks away. Tough. Now, out of all the deaths in this video, this one felt like it had a purpose. I think Starlin being so cavalier with Batman indirectly killing, sometimes it leads to really great stories, where we can explore how these deaths impact Bruce. While I understand why Robin killed Felipe, because of that, 4 other men died. Men who probably were not nearly as bad as Felipe. Now, I mentioned how I wanted Batman who puts as much effort into fighting crime as he does into protecting life. In this segment, we can see how Batman seems to be far more skilled at beating the shit out of criminals and not so much as to protect their lives. Now, I have spoken before about Starlin and his interpretation of Batman. However, Mike Barr, who wrote Batman and the Outsiders, is also another writer I really love. I think the lackadaisical attitude when it comes to killing is more about the decade of transition they were in and less about the writer's level of talent or understanding of the character. For most of these men, they knew a Batman who killed since they were kids. It makes sense they write Batman this way. Mike Barr is the one who wrote Batman commending Breon for throwing Baron Bedlam to his death. In this issue, we are treated to this wonderful cover and then straight action. Some setting up happens that we'll skip over because in the opening fight sequence we see a shootout between 2 parties and Batman and Robin come in to save the day and stop the violence. However, on the very next page we see Batman kicking ass, taking on 2 goons no problem. But when he hears the click of a machine gun, he instinctively uses one of the goons as a human shield, pushing him towards the line of fire and effectively killing him. Now what's interesting is that even in the last issue, Starlin takes the time to ponder on the deaths of those men. In this issue, we just see Robin gleefully kicking the shit out of these guys while slinging Christmas-themed jokes. What's even more insane is that Batman is cornered with 4 guys pointing the same machine guns at him, but then he pulls the most insane move. Like a Looney Tunes character, he kicks all 4 of them at the same time before they can shoot. Where was this in the last page, Batman? If that was an option, he could have saved Felipe's dad as well. This one is a short excerpt. You should read the rest of this comic. It even has my boy Elongated Man in it. But I just always find it insane how Batman will use people as human shields. Now the next excerpt will be a twofer written by the great Jim Starlin, one of my favorite Batman stories, Batman the Cult. This comic is a surreal, almost psychedelic horror that tells the story of Batman being broken in a way that he has never been broken before. I picked up this book because Amanda Waller, evil as ever, uses this dark moment in Bruce's life as a dig towards him in a Justice League International story about mind control. Batman completely loses himself here. And I don't want to spoil any of the brilliant moments in this run, so I'll only go over the very end where a lot of people die, either directly or indirectly. Let's start with Batman practicing shooting. It feels weird to see Batman wield a gun, Jason even says so, even if the guns are loaded with tranq darts. It's strange. However, the dynamic duo are going up against an army, one that the National Guard could not defeat. An army of drugged up homeless people who worship a cult leader named Deacon Blackfire. Then we see something even more insane. Batman is practicing using rocket launchers. We are well beyond the damage a gun can do. Now we are using military grade weapons that spare no life. We see that the city is blocked off by Deacon's men. As they watch the bridge, a bright light gets bigger. This, of course, is the oversized monster truck that Batman is riding into battle with. It's so sick. They fire at the truck, taking cover from their barricade, but like I said, this is a monster truck equipped with tranq darts, so Batman is firing on them, causing them to either fall asleep or scurry away, except for this guy in the corner. If you look closely here, you can see this man is about to be crushed by Batman's wheel. Perhaps he gets out in time, but I cannot imagine all these dudes made it out alive. What's even more damning is we see 4 men shooting at the top of the page, and then if you look down, we can only make 3 men running for their lives. Maybe the 4th got out in time, but personally, I think Batman ran over someone by accident. Now if you think I'm being nitpicky, the next part is even more insane. I mentioned how crazy it is to take the precaution of only using tranq darts, but for some reason you outfit your bat truck with a rocket launcher. Now look at this man at the top of a building, shooting at Batman. We see Robin shooting tranq darts at the victims of Blackfire, many of which are probably asleep on the ground now. Tell me why Batman shoots a rocket at the building this man was shooting from. Then we see the entire thing come crashing down. Those people are dead. Batman says you want to avoid killing anyone if possible, but the panel with the rocket says sometimes you have to get tough, just so that the opposition knows you mean business. I interpret this as Bruce knowing for a fact some of them might die, and he needs to send a message. I mean, someone explain how you can have people asleep on the ground, tranquilized, and then a man on top of a building. Then you blow up that same building to smithereens, and you want me to believe that nobody died. Right. Now after witnessing all of this, Batman gets the only man left standing to deliver that message to Deacon Blackfire. It feels wrong to see Batman with a gun, but this page is pretty fucking cool. We see Batman and Robin explore the sewers and they run into more of Blackfire's men. They unleash their tranq darts at them. What I find crazy is after they knock them out with sleeping gas, they explode the tunnel behind them. I think Starlin intended for this to be Batman simply closing off the tunnel, but my god, this is that reckless violence I was talking about. Those men cannot move out the way if rubble comes crashing down on them. They are knocked out. However, that is not the main point. We skip forward a bit and we get to the final showdown between Deacon Blackfire and his former disciple, Batman. Batman is still suffering somewhat from the drugs Blackfire gave him, and he is fighting to not shoot him. I always find it funny how principled Batman is at these final showdowns, but if you go back a few pages, he could care less about the lives of Deacon's victims. Deacon gets irritated at Batman's hesitation and lunges at him, and they have this amazing fight scene, in which Batman realizes Deacon wants to die. He wants to be a martyr. This page in particular is one of my favorites. I have it as my phone wallpaper. After Batman defeats Deacon Blackfire, we see the right-hand man of Blackfire attempt to shoot Batman, but of course my boy Jason Todd saves him. After this, Deacon commands his followers, who are now piling in, to attack Batman. But they don't, and Batman narrates, "The important thing is to never let them sense fear or weakness in you. That's a fatal mistake." After his followers witness him lose, they turn on him. Just like in Markovia, Batman watches a man get torn apart by a mob. Surprisingly, Robin moves to intervene, but Batman stops him. Truthfully, I think there wasn't much they could do in this scenario, and you can see Batman is not happy about it. While Batman has had a strained relationship with the concept of the no-kill rule, I believe these stories help to paint a picture of how comics evolve. We can read through the decades and get understanding of what DC wanted out of Batman, how the 40s and 50s laid the foundation, how the 70s, 80s, and 90s experimented, grew, and changed him, and how the 2000s tried, failed, and then succeeded in revitalizing him, how Batman became who he is today. Overall, I like it when Batman puts in more effort when it comes to the protection of life rather than simply being a violent person. I understand he is a crime fighter, but he should also be a savior, somebody who gives first aid, who can talk someone down from suicide instead of encouraging them to do it. Someone who tells Breon, hey, don't throw that guy off the roof. Someone who would never, ever use a man as a human shield, because he knows how valuable life is. And when it comes to the earnestness that everybody loves in Superman, I think we overlook how endearing and idealistic Batman can be. He's not just a cynical asshole, he's a man who is constantly tempted to kill and chooses mercy every single time. Now I understand that for a lot of you these deaths are no big deal. I can be okay with that. I enjoy most of these stories. I just laughed so hard reading Batman say, I like the way your mind works to Breon. It just shows how recent Batman's no-kill rule is. Now I'm still working on the Discord, it's taking a little longer than I thought. I will update as we go. I don't like to ask for stuff, but if you guys wouldn't mind subscribing, and if you're on mobile, they have a hype feature. If you could press that, I'd appreciate that a lot. And we are slowly on the way to 10K, so thanks to everybody. I want to try to do some more comic reviews if you guys are into that. I want to do some shorter videos where I go into Matt Fraction's new Batman stuff. It's so good. I might have a poll up by now asking what videos you guys want to see next, but let me know what you think about Batman's no-kill rule. Alrighty y'all, peace.